Jamie and I decided that we were going to replace the exhaust on the Elantra. This is not the downpipe from the Elantra. This came from my GSX. Why is it laying in front of the Elantra? I just told you, Jamie and I decided we were going to replace the exhaust on the Elantra. And here's the story.
Look at the diameter of this versus what we'd be putting on it. Do you think this is more or less the same size as what's on there?
It's 2.5 inch press bent.
So it's still kind of big right there though.
Yeah, but you can feel right here and then feel right there.
Yeah, but look at this. That's factory. I remember that. That's why this section came off of another front-wheel drive car in the junkyard. It won't even a DSM. So
we gain volume with the other pipe.
Yeah. But I'm saying we're going to be taking out. We could just start here. Let's just unbolt this, and we need to look at. I'm planning on moving the cat back.
Good.
That's going to have to be on the back side of the hangers right now.
Perfect.
And there won't be a hanger on the rear of the cat. It'll just have one hanger at the front of the cat.
It'll be harder for it to light off further back, but
who cares?
Yep.
We're not emissions testing here. Nope. And there is a heat shield there.
Yes, sir.
So it's still under a heat shield, and it still has the bottom heat shield facing down, which is supposed to be that way. It's supposed to have one above it suspended and one attached to it below it. So we're going to move that catalytic converter back behind those hangers with like a couple inches to spare. All right. We've got that 3-inch pipe. We can just use all of that, and we can get a 3-to-2 reducer, and just
3-to-2 it.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need to lay some parts out. That's what we need to do. I know this needs to come down, and I know the cat needs to go to the back. So we need to figure out where to cut it back there. We need to cut it back there.
We got a lot of room back there.
Unbolt it here and get this out. Take the whole thing out. What I was thinking.
We knew the downpipe for a second-generation Eclipse wasn't going to just bolt in and fit. So after surveying what we were starting with, what we're keeping, and what was going away, we set out to find metal things that looked like they needed to be welded together.
Man, it's going to be tough. I really need it up in the air higher.
Okay.
Let's
do that. Yeah, okay, we didn't exactly get a lot done with the 3 hours of daylight that we had beyond that shopping trip, and it's obvious that we're making this exhaust up as we go along. That's what you have to do with this car. We confirmed our suspicions that we had to buy a collection of parts in order to make that big of a transition. One of them was a stainless steel exhaust tip that just happened to be 2.5 inch OD to 3 inch OD. That's what Jamie was cutting up there. Well, I had to wrap it early. I hit the road. Got to wrap a couple of beads around this catalytic converter we bought for it. I got a 2.5 inch cat and some other pieces and bits, and had a productive day, but just not enough time in one day. We'll get it tomorrow. Tomorrow indeed, but like I said, I've got homework. The rest of the parts we picked up were 2.5 inch OD to OD coupler, a 3 inch ID to OD coupler, and of course this brand new 2.5 inch catalytic converter. Why a catalytic converter, you say? Well, it's because I want to continue to safely and legitimately pass my state safety inspection, and because it's the right thing to do for a street car and for the sake of my own health. There, I said it. Wow, I think I'm getting better at this. I don't think I've ever guessed the knobs on my welder as correctly as this before. Daggone it, I shouldn't have said something. I just blew through. There's an air gap on the lip of the second weld where we needed it to line up, so I had to stitch weld it in order to control the heat if I wanted the same penetration. Fine by me. That's what they make grinders for. The GSX's downpipe had no provisions for a catalytic converter, so welding a 3 inch ID coupler on one end with the help of that exhaust tip to the converter fixed all of our little fitment issues. It simply didn't make sense to clamp anything together underneath the car because I have a MIG welder. Early the next morning, I showed up with the finished part, and we got right to work tearing out the old exhaust to give it the exhaust that it deserves. First, let's see how bad the old one is. That is 2 inch. 2 inch pipe.
I think it's smaller than that, actually. I think it's 1 3/4. 1.88 OD.
1.88 OD on this part right here.
Yep. All this whole straight section is 1.88 OD.
Well, okay, so not 2 inch.
That's an inch and 7/8. 875 is inch and 7/8. Inch and 7/8 OD, so it's inch and 3/4 ID.
Had a little exhaust leak there, I can see. Not surprised. This thing was used. It probably came off of an Altima or something like that. This is just a section of pipe he cut out from the junkyard. Elbows, whatever was necessary, just got cut off of other pieces, and we're putting this back together a little differently this time. So we've got a 2.5 inch outlet on this side of this new catalytic converter, and we've got 3 inch, is that OD?
It's ID.
3 inch ID. About that old catalytic converter, it's not stainless steel like the new one, but we wanted to see what it looked like after 30,000 miles and all the junk and crap that went through it. Not bad.
Can you believe that? Let's knock the metal shavings out. Ridiculous.
I don't know if it focuses that close. I don't think it does, but it's... Yeah! Can you see through it?
Oh, hell yeah.
Not bad. So, everybody knows I had a working catalytic converter.
No deposits. None.
Yeah.
It's just
That's water methanol injection for a short while. That's the only thing. Water methanol injection steam cleans everything on the inside of the exhaust and the entire intake and intake valves, the head.
Well, I know what I'm doing on the Dakota then.
Just look at the size of the fart pipe after the flex section. The Hyundai's bass note is about to get ridiculous, and the turbo is going to get a whole lot more spooly without that restriction. There's no question that I'll have to retune it after this. Notice that the 2.5 inch elbow on the new exhaust is mandrel bent versus the old one being press bent, so it's narrower. Either way, goodbye. Had to cut a section of pipe out, shorten it a little bit so we can get a different angle and move the downstream section of the pipe over a little bit more to the driver's side. That's not all we had to move over though. The back half of the exhaust and the new catalytic converter had to come over nearly 2 inches in order to fit. So we picked up 2 3-inch elbows to make up that transition. If you were paying attention, you just picked up on what was the part that was in this box that started this whole adventure in the first place. I'm installing a happiness valve. I did all the welding and Jamie did all the grinding. To me, this arrangement's more fortunate than owning a private jet. What started this was my idea to install a cutout to bypass the Hyundai's restrictive exhaust. I chose to start with the GSX's nice Apexi N1 exhaust because it was old and rusty and from 1997. It just made sense to start with that. I got lucky and accidentally ordered the correct size cutout kit to fit it because I honestly didn't look or measure anything here first. These Granatelli electric cutout kits aren't cheap, but I wanted quality and easy functionality for what's about to become probably the second most fun button in the whole car, right after the gas pedal button, of course. It's this second button that controls the happiness valve, and it makes the first most fun button even more funner. Only on track day, of course. Jamie made all the hangers and I welded them on. Because this pipe is gigantic in comparison with what we removed or even what Hyundai passes off for a 1.6 liter Elantra's exhaust to begin with, it's going to be situated closer and tighter to the underbody of the car, the existing heat shields, and pretty much every component under the car. I didn't want to sacrifice ground clearance in order to do this, and I didn't want any part of this kit visible from outside the car. Fortunately, Jamie had the foresight to buy a roll of heat wrap to keep things under control. You really should do this with 2 people to ensure that it stays tight while you're wrapping it. It takes 4 hands to get it tight enough. It turned out perfectly. The included band clamps were a complete pain in the dick, but they suffered through and used them just to prove to everyone that it really is possible. Thanks, Jamie, and thank you, John Z, for all your help with the wrap and the electronics.
Where is the key?
I shouldn't have it. I don't have it. You gotta just start it again. You can just leave it. You guys just leave it running for a second. Just let it run. Wait till the O2 sensor warms up before you do anything. Okay. You'll know because that'll hit stoic right there. That'll go start going to 14.7. Yeah. Right now it's...
Well, it shouldn't still too much. It might just be a little bit deeper.
And right about now. There we go. And then after that, you'll hear the cams and the idle figure themselves out. to do the same thing.
You can actually blow off and release one. Look, there you go.
It sounds like it's cracked open.
I just did.
Okay.
Hit it again. You just gotta hold it about 5 seconds and it burns. That's quick. Alright, let's go ahead and mount it. Hell yeah. Alright, I'm gonna put it back together.
And this is how it looked once the car was back on the ground. I thought we were going to lose ground clearance, but with so many of us working together on this to get the fit and finish just right, we pulled off what we thought at first was going to be impossible. We fit a 3-inch downpipe and a 3-inch electric cutout underneath a Hyundai Elantra without it being able to be seen from outside the car. You can't see it from the front, from the back, or the side. The wires go up through the floor pan into the dash where the controller and the switch live. I'm going to revisit this after the shootout for a grommet and some extra protective gear, but the switch is a 2-position momentary switch. It's mounted so that up opens and down closes. It hangs out in the middle in neutral. This steel plate that I made is the ultimate mounting location for the switch. It's clean, somewhat unobtrusive, and very accessible on race day. It's a whole lot easier than removing a cat and installing a test pipe, and it also flows a whole lot better than that because it doesn't have to use the back half of my exhaust. All I have to do on race day is hit a button to completely screw up my airflow tables, and I'll show you what I mean by that later. It's really amazing how well we got all this to fit in such a tight space. There's a 1/2 inch of clearance everywhere. I've been driving around with it on bumpy potholed city streets, and there's not one rattle or ding anywhere in it. We clearanced the floor pan slightly on the passenger side to make more room for the servo motor. We could have maybe got it by without doing that, but it let us clock it up tighter to the body, making it more invisible if we did, so of course we did it. The pipe shortening up front on the bend section moved all this over, just enough to one side to make room for the cutout to fit as if it were made for it after the clearancing was done. But the pipe moved over 1 3/4 inches, and here's that section in the back with the S-curve. Jamie got all the lengths and angles perfect on the S-bend on the first try, just like we did on that pipe section we cut out in the front. I know this because I'm the dick that got to market and weld all the stuff back together again. I guess it helps when being a pipe fitter is one of your many trades. Thanks, Jamie. Thanks for all your suffering. I bought some electrical connectors so that Jamie could rewire the headlights. What headlights? The headlights I just replaced? No, the headlights that Michael Hoffman sent me from Germany. Duh. Huge enormous shout out to Deutschland, not only for its wonderful thoughtful people who subscribe to my channel and support me on Patreon, but also for having better made J1 Elantras in their junkyards with glass headlight lenses that you can actually see out of when they're on at night. Mr. Hoffman took time out of his busy schedule to find and pick these up for me, completely unsolicited. We didn't get anything like this from Hyundai here. All of them are milky white, opaque plastic pieces of junk now, and it took me years just to find the set that are on my car right now that barely ring in it okay to get me to pass inspection. These are not only crystal clear, they're even equipped with power headlight adjusters, gigantic reflectors for the old incandescent bulbs, and a factory halo bulb located behind the reflector. Someone may correct me if I'm wrong about what that little bulb's purpose is. I mean, I suppose they could have been used as signal lights or something, but I'm not aware of how such a dim white bulb could ever be successful at competing with these gigantic, brighter headlights. These were a perfect bolt-in fit. As well as the parking lens assemblies too, thank you. It's nice to have parking lights that aren't dry rotted and still have all the mounting clips intact and don't fall out every time I break 100 miles an hour. But absolutely nothing about the wiring was compatible, and I knew they'd be a challenge to install. Jamie wanted to take that challenge on. But wow, such a unique and unusual and much safer part to have. Thank you, Michael. And thank you, Jamie, for all your efforts installing them while I worked on this GSX block. I can't begin to explain what a difference this makes from the driver's seat at night. Well, you know I gotta tune it, so I'm at my home track with nothing to prove. Cutouts are race use only, and I follow directions. I'm running on about an hour of sleep right now. Oh hi, Mustang guy. I talked to him. It's a 5-liter Coyote with a high-rise intake. I've got one of those engines in my truck. No high-rise intake, of course, but we'll see if I need to get one of those. Did I mention I'm running on 1 hour of sleep? Look at this cat. Yeah, I see you, buddy. Loud and clear. I think that's the guy that's supposed to... Yeah, that's him. After you. So polite. See how nice I am even when I haven't slept? I've changed nothing other than the boost. I made one pull before this and it was rich. Rather than pull fuel out, It said I just turned up the boost. I figured I'd add air. Don't know if that's going to work or not, but we'll find out. I need to blow the dust off my driving here. I haven't had the seat time this summer because I've been busy with so many other things. I'm tired, but I have to do this. I need the data. Data? Oh yeah, I got to start a log. Shoot, I almost forgot. Man, I need a nap. Alright, let's do this. Yeah, that was a crap run, but I'm just here for the data. I had a problem with my clutch switch and quickly adjusted my clutch pedal usage so that I could finish this run and save the data log. I had just turned on no lift to shift back in the staging lanes, and apparently my clutch switch is moved because I was locked into my shift limiter when I launched it. I've had to fix this issue before, and that's why I was able to identify it so quickly and adapt to compensate for it while half asleep. I had to pull up on my clutch pedal really hard to mash the switch so that I could use the last 3,250 RPMs beyond my shift limiter. So basically I was hitting both sides of the pedal with my foot every single time I shifted. Push-pull. At least I got the data log though. I might have to get a high-rise intake for Big Red too. Nice car, bud. It's quick. I dig it. A Wevens NA with a high-rise. Cool. I did indeed get data. It's running a half-point rich still. The light blue line is my clutch switch, and you can see that it was off on the launch and just waiting to sabotage my run. It didn't turn back on when I let off the pedal either. The yellow line is knock. I can't do anything about that second gear knock because second gear hits the exact same airflow cells as third and fourth, and those are exactly where I need them to be right now. I thought this exhaust would lean me out some, and it did in one little spot where the turbo was spooling. I didn't change anything going into my next run though because this run was so bad. Running rich is exactly a good sign of what's to come. Let's do that again. Next up we have a Formula Firebird. I discovered that I couldn't fix my clutch switch issue here at the track because the bolts won't snug. They're stripped. I rigged it to where I think it'll work, but I'll have to do a permanent fix back at home. I'm here, so I might as well line up and get another log because this is my last chance to do some shakedown runs before the shootout. Honestly, I wasn't expecting that outcome. I've seen that car run low 12s before, and he should have had me. I still had a big problem with the clutch switch on the 2 to 3 shift. It took forever and a day for it to let me back off the rev limiter, and that shows in my mile per hour as well as this data log. I confirmed the rich behavior is consistent and that the ECU is trying to pull fuel. I would rather have to lean it out than fatten it up. The knock sensor's under control for third and fourth, and I might be able to clean up second gear by playing with the boost controller a little because second is really peaky now. I've clearly got a lot of work to do, but just look at that blue clutch switch value again. Notice the white line that represents my Omni 4-bar manifold absolute pressure sensor hovering above it. That's boost. Look at where it is now compared to this log with the old exhaust. My peak boost is coming on 800 RPMs earlier in comparison. much quicker spool. Even more of a light switch effect, and while that's problematic for traction, it's great for making power. I'm making 4 extra pounds of boost across the board. Extra is relative for boost junkies though. As far as this Hyundai is concerned, extra boost is never enough. It has no problem holding 27 psi. These injectors are doing just fine with this setup. I'm not even above 80% duty cycle. I'll need to make some adjustments to my boost levels and pull a little fuel out, but we're out of time. Staging lanes are closed, and I'm gonna go home and get some sleep. I'm glad I got these logs in before leaving for the shootout though. Thank you Jamie and Corin for helping me capture this video footage. Sleep deprived or not, this helped me blow the rust off my driving ability that hasn't been tested since March, as well as the car itself really. It helped me find a mechanical problem with an electrical part that could waste all my time and efforts dragging this car 500 miles over mountains to Ohio and then finding it out there. Fixing this at home will save a ton of time and trouble, and it should be a fairly easy fix. So the following day, I lifted the front end, checked all my fluids, drained the oil, and took a stab at fixing this clutch switch. I disconnected the battery, and I unplugged the harness from the ECU so I could weld on the chassis without frying anything. I'll need all this stuff to work once I get to Ohio. I removed the kick panel and the clutch switch so you can see this, and so I could fix it easily without melting anything. The bracket bolts were just self-tapped into the steering column mount. Over time and repeated use, that just didn't work out for me. You can see how loose this is here now.
That is unacceptable.
I can't think of any reason why I'd ever need to unbolt this thing going forward, so I just decided that it needs to become a stationary part. It just needs to function correctly and let my car do what it wants to do. If I ever need to remove anything here, it would just be the switch. It's just threaded into the bracket with a lock nut and it unscrews, so 3D printing some metal on it here seemed like the best fix. I'm nowhere near as accurate as a 3D printer, but there, that ought to do it. So while that's cooling off, I'm going to go ahead and put the oil drain plug back in, change the filter, fill the sucker back up, put the battery back together. So what's all this talk about the shootout? Yes, I'm going to the shootout this year, and I'm telling you this here because this and Patreon are the only social media that I have or want. The shootout this year is August 16th through the 18th, just outside of Sandusky, Ohio. Jamie will be accompanying me this year so that you can come and meet the guy who concepted this junkyard build, got it running, and then left it in my driveway with the keys in it to begin with. Jamie is that guy. Some of you who are very observant know this clutch switch was made by Jamie, was featured in an earlier video, and that I was the last one who modified it and messed with it. That's even still true. I'm still the guy who messed with it last, so don't blame him for any of this. That just goes to show you that my videos aren't instruction manuals, and I've never intended them to be. I don't always get things right the first time. These videos are just these cars' documentaries. I just want you to see what I see, what my experience was with the thing, and how I address and adapt my experience with that thing. It's all cause and effect, so if you learn something from this, cool, because we're doing that too. Neither Jamie nor I ever set out to make this car into our race chassis of choice. All we ever wanted to do with it was to make a fun street car with everything that we can fit into it on a shoestring budget. You've heard the saying that there's no engineering problem that time and money can't solve? Yeah, well, this car's approach is that there's no money problem that time and engineering can't solve. My goal has always been to be street legal. There's nothing fun about failing safety inspections, emissions violations, or fix-it tickets, so I'll always keep this car in street form with DOT-approved tires, a full interior, and all the things that make it a fun and functional street car that you can fill up at any gas station. I will not be competing at the shootout, but I will be running test and tune and having a good time. There are some vendors I can't wait to talk to. I want my $1 pints of ice cream. I want to hang out with all the Evo, DSM, and GTR fans, and if only for a weekend, to walk in the footsteps of giants. Hopefully, I get to see some of you there. So, until next time, stay tubed.
Clutch pedal feels right. Finally.